All right, well, let's hit a few high points of Raw, for heaven's sake.
You want to get high?
Well, no, Towley. Ontario, California has a lot of nerve taking Ontario, Canada's name and being abbreviated almost exactly the same way. You know, a lot of people in the old days, before they had GPS, a lot of people would have gone to Canada to make this shot. You realize that, don't you?
When they say void in Ontario, I'm always confused.
Well, and if this had been the Vince McMahon era, they would have still said, we're in Los Angeles, or we're in Hollywood, or we're in Beverly Hills, or something. They would have said Ontario. But I guess they got big arenas out there everywhere now. This thing, did they tell us that the show was going to become 2 hours for a while? When is that going to happen?
Yeah, we did hear that. I think it's coming up soon, for the remainder of their run on USA at least. Soon. I don't know when.
Soon. You know, and like I would have watched the second match, and we'll get to it in a second. But it's a 3-hour fucking show, people. I've got a life. I have things that I have to do, such as breathing and bathing every once in a while. And it just gets, it's so long. It's so long. But what a start to the fucking thing. You're making me a Liv Morgan fan. I still don't ever want to see her wrestle, but that nails on a chalkboard, chalkboard.
The chalkboard.
That's what I'm trying to say. The chalkboard.
Yeah, that thing.
Nails on the chalkboard voice. This whole thing is so childish, but yet fascinating because Rhea Ripley's involved, and Liv and Dominik are these two fucking annoying heel fucking idiots that, you know, yeah, it shouldn't be any good, but it is. Is that what I'm trying to say?
I don't know why it shouldn't be any good. It's been great from the moment they put her with Dominik Mysterio. It's been working, and I think they're really good at this.
Well, when she speaks, my ears bleed, as I've mentioned about lovely Liv, but these two come out, Liv and Dom, and they cut, and by the way, they come in the low rider and they walk through the back, and Bronson Reed and Braun Strongman are fight past them. More on that in a moment from last week and this week. But then a bunch of people run after them. And then Dominik and Liv walk straight into the arena and do the entrance. Again, the camera work and the timing and the shot blocking. It's insane these days. And all Liv has to do is come out there and whine like that and say that she took, from Rhea, she took the women's title, she took Judgment Day, and she took the most gorgeous man in the world, Dominik Mysterio. Woo! And then Rhea's music plays, and out she comes, and she's super over. And she looks like a fucking superstar. And she said, don't worry, Liv, I'm not going to hit you, but I just want to tell you, and mommy chants start, and Dominik starts to step up, and she tells him to get out of the fucking way. And Liv cuts the promo, I'm going to beat you because I'm smarter than you are. Because I've been beating your knee up, and you're going to have to say that you're not cleared and blah, blah, blah. And Rhea says, well, I came out here to tell you, my knee is good and I am cleared. And by the way, Dominik, you're going to be there when I take my women's title back high above the ring in a shark cage.
A shark cage.
I don't know, with her accent, it sounded like a shark cage. And he was going to be shitting his pants. But then old Wade Barrett, I believe, cleared it up. A shark cage. Why can't they just say hanging over the ring in a small cage? It might be easier for to say. Because the sharks hadn't come up. At least on AEW one time it was Shark Week, right?
I think so, yeah, because they've done that a few times, Shark Week.
People weren't thinking of sharks. But nevertheless, the people like that, and then Rhea Ripley said, and by the way, what I said before, I take it back, and she headbutts Liv and knocks her out.
That looked good.
Yes, it did.
And Liv sold it good.
Yes, she did.
Everything here was good.
Yes, it was. You are correct, sir. Yes, sir. See, now I'm Ed McMahon.
It's all downhill from here. I don't know where else to go.
It's all downhill from here, but it was a great promo. And it gets, again, Rhea Ripley is not the biggest female star in the business. She's one of the biggest stars in the business, period. And Dominik still has kept his heat. And they're mad at Liv because she's the shrewish little mean girl that is, messing with Rhea. So anyway, we started off good.
It's interesting to stop for a second and just talk about something we talked about years ago. When Dominik Mysterio was first being used as a wrestler, as a smiling babyface with his dad, when Rey Mysterio's contract was coming up, and he had to decide WWE or AEW, and part of the discussion was, where's Dominik going to go with his dad? And we looked at Dominik but compared him to a Hook in terms of where they were at the same time at one time, and Sammy Guevara maybe too. Look at the job Dominik Mysterio has done in WWE.
Yeah.
To become a heel. He's kind of like Michael Hayes. He may not be, Buddy Rogers in the ring, but he knows how to be a heel.
Yes, and he works like he looks, and he presents himself like he looks. What we said before, these guys and on the other side, they've concocted in their heads how they want to come off, but they don't look like it. And he looks like a chicken shit dipshit that gets heat like this, and that's why he's a bigger star than anybody they've got. It's understanding what you can.
If he had gone
what
to
you
AEW,
can do on purpose to make work for you. Yeah, go ahead.
If he had gone to AEW, if Rey Mysterio had signed with AEW and Dominik had gone there with him, just think of how different the career trajectory would have been if he had been on Dynamite every week instead of having his character develop over the last few years.
His career trajectory on Dynamite would have looked like Wall Street in October of 29. But anyway,
what do you think of them booking the match? Just one last thing on this. Liv versus Rhea with Dominik in a shark cage above the ring.
Well, I like that because that way he can be up there making scared faces and trying to yell down advice to Liv when she needs it that she can't hear because the people are screaming because he's trying to talk. They won't, they'll still have a match, but they won't really need to. It's gold there, and he's a sitting duck if Rhea wants to fuck with him.
What's he going to throw down, right? You have to throw something down if you're in a cage above the ring.
Well, you don't always. It depends on how long they want to keep this going. But, potentially what kind of foreign objects does Liv use? I'm not trying to ask in a filthy type of way.
I don't think she's established any specific, she doesn't have a sledgehammer or nothing.
Well, in that case, then, maybe he can slip down some type of marital aid she keeps in her purse. I don't know.
And then you just go that direction anyway.
Anyway, I'm moving along here now, though, because the next match was a point I want to make real quick. It was Sami Zayn versus Ludwig Kaiser. And I would have liked to have watched this, but we're 15 minutes into a 3-hour show, and I don't know what the fuck's got. I'm trying to hit the high points and get the major news, right? But both those guys are good, and Kaiser has really been fantastic lately, and they had a good match, and the fans loved it. And Sammy hit the kick and got the big pop, 1, 2, 3. And so that was, and then Gunther comes out and again teases giving Sammy a world title shot right there in River City or whatever. And then, the way he twisted around, but no. But they did something, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago that we skipped over. I think that was either when I had poisoned myself or it was my birthday or something happened.
Or all of the above.
Or all of the above. But they did a segment with Sammy and Gunther and Bret Hart when they were in Calgary. And that ties into this because they've been doing the deal where Sammy wants a world title match. And Gunther keeps teasing him that he's finally going to give it to him, but no. And they worked that into a deal where in Calgary they brought Bret out, and then Gunther came out and confronted him. And one of the greatest lines ever, and Gunther has that dry delivery. He's a fucking German stand-up comic if he wants to be.
Austrian.
Whatever. Same part of the world. But he said he put Bret over and how great he was, and he did this and he did that. He said, Bret Hart, I think you're great. You're only second only to my all-time favorite wrestler, Bill Goldberg.
You know what? The real tribute was that he didn't just say Goldberg. He said Bill Goldberg.
Yeah, Bill Goldberg, yeah. But the point is, when Sami came out and then, was defending Bret in terms of, the verbally, he hadn't attacked Bret or anything, but he's defending him verbally. And then Sami and Gunther got in a fight. Here's the point I'm making between what they did here and what they're doing with Sami and Gunther and etc. Sami Zayn, for quite a few years there when they were indie-rific darlings, old El Generico was the sidekick of Kevin Steen, who was the fat loudmouth that always had something to say. And, and that's where they were in the pecking order in the minds of the indie wrestling fans. I think Sami Zayn is more important to the WWE than Kevin Owens is right now. I think longer term, he's got more upside. The people like him in a more genuine way rather than just cheering because he cannonballs his fat ass into people's faces. And he can, at this point, I think his promos are better. He's more motivated. Who would tell me in 2012 which one is a better promo, Kevin Steen or El Generico?
Well, it's obviously Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn's the best everyman in wrestling.
Yes.
He pulls it off better than anyone else.
And he tries, to me, watching as a viewer, he tries harder to do the best he can with material he's given than Steen does 2-1. So I think he's more valuable to the company than Steen is. And if they're going to give him, too many pronouns, pal, if they're going to give Steen millions of dollars to go play with his former friends or his current friends, former co-workers, then I don't think that the WWE is going to suffer that big of a loss with all the other names they got on the roster. But Sami fills a spot it would be hard to fill, is what I'm saying.
I agree. Plus, if Sami ever turned heel, if done right, it could be massive still. Owens,
oh, good heavens.
If Owens turns, he's just turned again.
Owens doesn't turn as much as he molds. Anyway, so then by the time that Gunther had turned down giving Sami a match, we were 40 minutes into the show. We got Carlito and Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee won in a few minutes. They must have been running late with something that I don't know if it was fucked up or not. I couldn't tell. Did you see Miz and Cross had a heartfelt conversation in a room filled with reproductions of old vintage wrestling posters that had been put on a color Xerox machine and taped to the wall with duct tape? What the fuck was that about?
I don't know, because I think the previous segment drove me off to take a break because I didn't see that and I didn't see this.
Well, they actually, it was old Atlanta Ringsider program covers that I remember seeing that looked like they were Xeroxed and stuck up with tape, and then an old Carolina's poster from the 70s that was also stuck up with tape in Miz's room. He's noted for being a student of the classics. Anyway, at 9 o'clock, we were ready to see The Miz versus Bronson Reed. And of course, earlier in the night, they had done the deal where when Liv and Dominik were coming in the arena, Bronson Reed and Braun Strongman had fought right past him and knocked over a bunch of shit and continued on. Because they got in a big fight last week on the program and just went back and forth, just hitting each other with shit and big moves and throwing security away and doing the whole 9 yards. And you seemed a little gleeful about it when I talked to you earlier about the backstage and through the arena fighting of the two behemoths.
These two giant guys, and giant in different ways, so they look different out there, fighting, starting with the brawl in the parking lot and the splash on the car. And then last week, they went through a fake wall, and it looked a lot better than the AEW fake walls.
Well, yes.
And just chaos, just people running around after them, and there's something about it that I like, and I'm actually looking forward to the match next week.
Well, yeah,
they've done a good job of building up this match.
The wall last week, it was drywall, but at least they went to the effort of putting some studs into the goddamn thing above where they crashed through. There was still no stud for a 6-foot fucking period in a goddamn wall, but they had studs above it you could actually see, and it was a wall in a place that needed to have a wall, right? So they went the extra mile. But that's what they did last week. And then they did the homage to Kevin Sullivan and Blackjack Mulligan, who fought out the back door of the Eddie Graham Sports Stadium in Orlando that one week. And the next week during the first match, fought in the front door wearing the same shit. And now they're telling the story they're still going to fight because Miz gets in the ring and Bronson Reed tries to make his entrance. And old Braun attacks him in the alleyway. And then they just go back and forth and they start running. It's so preposterous that I actually kind of got entertained also. They start running the security guys in. And what did they have? 12 or 14 security guys out there. And one of them will beat up or choke slam 2 or 3. And the other one will top rope or whatever, 2 or 3. And then they'll fight for a second. Then they'll turn around and both together, they'll beat up another dozen security guards. At one point, Braun strongman drop kicked Bronson Reed in the upper thigh. Did you see that flying drop kick?
I did. He's a big man.
I liked last week's, I think, better that this one was a little preposterous because now it's becoming a contest between, bless their little pea-picking hearts, these security guys. They're local indie wrestlers, obviously. But it's becoming a bump-taking contest as to who can take the most even over-exaggerated bump for one of the monsters, and the most action comes out of the security guard, Ned Flanders from Springfield, who you never heard of before and will never see again. Are you really want to see them have another fucking match?
I think the fans are going to be all amped up too for that match. Let's see.
They need to be. As a matter of fact, that's what they need to do at the front door when the fans are entering the arena. They need to pass out a baggie full of fucking meth to each one of them to get them amped up to see that match.
They've had running security guards. They've had parking lot brawls and destroyed roofs of cars. They've had walls that got destroyed. They had turnbuckles ripped off because of just the mass force of being.
The mass force of being, the centrifugal fucking mass and girth of them. Contributing to the gravitational factor of the centrifugal X.
And it's also the look of it. Like, I don't know. If not Braun. There's a lot of Brons and Bronsons, and it's a lot of everyone with the same name all of a sudden. Bronson Reed, if he was like 6'5", I probably wouldn't be as interested. But because he is a big guy, but he looks different than Braun Strowman, was a classic, I'm going to just inject this, whatever it is, kind of big guy. I kind of like the way it looks.
You're saying it's got to be a bowling ball against a fucking meathead.
I'm saying we've seen a lot of meathead versus meathead. It's a nice change of pace. It's a nice change of pace.
That's a meathead versus a fat ass is what you're saying.
Meathead versus meatball.
All righty then. Nevertheless.
Are you looking forward to it now?
No,
oh, come on,
because they're just doing stunts at this point, and trying to have a match in the ring. What's a last monster standing match? So I'm sure they'll go through the arena again. But
monster. Does Braun...
They did the mash. They did the monster mash.
I was about to say Braun, but that's Bron Breakker. Bronson Reed, that's his name.
Uh-huh.
He has to go over, right?
I'd love him to. I really would.
Because, I mean, the whole thing is about teasing Rollins' return. Rollins just got pushed on the field at the NFL game over the weekend, so he's obviously getting close to return, I would think.
I thought he fell accidentally. Well, nevertheless, uh-oh. You hear that thunder? We better pick up the pace here. I might not be on the air much longer. Mother Nature is moving in.
All right.
Drew McIntyre. Do you hear that rain right now?
I did not hear it. I thought that was a dramatic pause. I didn't realize it was a dramatic pause with rain.
No, I said Drew McIntyre, and then suddenly it was like rain on a tin roof suddenly. Listen to the rhythm of the falling rain, telling me just what a fool I've been.
No one needs this.
Drew McIntyre did a promo, and they actually had some restraint on this 3-hour program. He came out with a game face on. He recounted what Punk said last week about how I'm prepared for this to be the end of CM Punk. And, you know, he's going to make Drew McIntyre bleed the whole 9 yards. And Drew said that he wasn't happy about going into the Hell in a Cell either. That everybody in Punk's family had begged him not to do it. Well, everybody in his family had begged him not to do it. But it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It's going to happen. And Drew says, I promise I'm going to make you bleed a lot. Now, they're setting expectations here. I'm going to make you suffer pain. I'm going to break you permanently into Hell in a Cell. It wasn't a long, drawn-out thing. It wasn't Hollywood scripted where he had to tell some analogy or some old chestnut be tied into a learning experience or whatever. He came out like Punk did. And he was serious, and he cut a fucking promo. He said, I'm going to fuck this guy up. And he left. I like that.
Yes, I liked it too. You're waiting for the segment dealing with Punk and McIntyre. This is the only thing there really was.
Well, because what else do they need to do at this point? The time, as Lucy said to Ricky Ricardo, the time has come. You know, the match is at hand. They can't go back and forth. It's made already. If anything they do physically at this point is detrimental rather than beneficial. So Punk got his statement. Now Drew's had his statement. Everybody's still interested, and they want to see what's going to happen. And so it's also refreshing not to have, even however good Drew has been, another one of these 20-minute interview segments in this long show. You know, Brian, this show was so long, about 2/3 of the way through, I realized I needed a good close shave again. I had grown a beard in the first part of this program. Has that ever happened to you?
Mid-program? No. Wolfman, I don't know how that happened to you.
You've never just realized when you leaned your hand over on your chin that you'd grown a beard waiting for this program to be over and you had to make your face slick again?
Mid-show?
Mid-show.
I didn't desire a slick face in the middle of the show, no.
Oh, well, you never know where that face is going to go pretty soon, folks. I'll tell you what, if you suddenly need a slick face to stick somewhere that doesn't want to have anything to do with stubble and old prickly whiskers on your coal mining looking face, then you better hope that you're on a first name basis with our friend Harry. Because if you don't know Harry, well, then you won't be wild about Harry like we are, because we're just wild about Harry. Harry makes, or causes to be made, the best old razors at the cheapest prices that you're ever going to have. It will give you the closest shaves from your sideburns all the way down your cheeks into your neckle area and back around to the other side again, plus up above your lips and underneath your nose and that little dented place in the middle. All of that place on you from now on is going to belong to Harry. You're going to call Harry your daddy. Oh, Daddy Harry, shave me, baby.
You know what? It could just be a relationship where you get your great razors from Harry's.
Well, yes, and
none of this is required.
And well, you're going to have to show the proper amount of respect. Don't look Harry in the eye. Here's another thing, folks. A lot of these trial sets where the people say, well, we'll give you a trial kit and you tried our razor and our blades and our shaving gel and etc. They cost up to $13. Well, that's the same thing that Harry's trial kit costs unless you know somebody who knows Harry. And I know Harry. And if you know Harry like I know Harry, you'll know if you go to harrys.com/JCE, you're going to get a $13 trial set for just $3. That won't even buy you one of these incredible German-engineered 5-blade cartridges in a regular old grocery store or possibly a dry goods place or someone who's a jack of all trades and sells used merchandise that's fallen off a truck. You're not going to get that kind of deal anywhere except at harrys.com. The razor, the weighted ergonomically designed handle, the foaming shave gel, and a travel cover so you don't slice your fingertips for just $3 at harrys.com/JCE. And then you can sign up for a convenient subscription option. If you like it, they'll send it to you all the time. You don't have to go outside in the cold, cruel world or the horrible driving rainstorm that has enveloped my home now. Instead, they'll bring them right to your door. And as a matter of fact, if you tip the mailman extra, he'll probably go ahead and stick them in your pocket for you while you're looking out to make sure that nobody knows you got them, because they'll try to steal them from you. People try to shoplift these Harry's 5-blade German-engineered cartridges right out of people's pockets. It's in the news everywhere.
This has nothing to do with
they ate this guy's dog the other day. They ate this guy's dog, and then they picked his pockets for his German-engineered Harry's blades.
Once again, let's let everyone know how they can get their Harrys.
Well, you can get your Jollies one way or another, but you can only get your Harrys by going to harrys.com/JCE. Get this trial set for $3 and then make your own decision. You're a grown adult. We're not telling you what to do or not do with the hair on your own face, but somebody ought to tell you what to do about it, because it's obviously not something you're keeping track of on your own. Disgusting, disgusting looking fucking people out there. Clean yourselves up.
With Harry's.
Yeah. And then once you take that hair, you can save it. When you dry it out, you can make little crafts things with it. Remember that little kid's toy where you took the magnetic pencil and you put the little magnetic shavings and made him like a mustache and a beard and comedy sideburns? I used to try to give him crotch hair, but there was no magnet there in that area. Yeah.
They only showed his face.
He didn't have any pubic hair. Well, I was trying to give him some down there, but they didn't have a magnet.
There was no down there. It was just the face, wasn't it? Shoulders, maybe?
Well, yeah. Well, I added it down there with cardboard.
You had the deluxe edition of the magnetic naked man, whatever you're talking about.
See, with a marker and some cardboard, you could make his whole magnetic body.
Luckily, you don't have to think about any of this with Harry's. One last time, Jim, what's that promo code for the best razors you can get?
harrys.com/JCE.
Well, let's
Raw
rolls on.
Raw is rolling on. They had a girls' tag team match.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Because you asked a few weeks ago. This Joe Tessitore, if I am now pronouncing
he's growing on me.
He's growing on me, although at times he sounds downright somber. When they come back from the commercial, sometimes it sounds like he's at a funeral.
See, I mentioned he's growing on me with his excitement level, but he is still, he's running the gamut of emotions. He's running the gamut of emotions from the thrill of victory to the agony of defeat. He seems to have come into this with an eye toward being a performative type of announcing fellow. So, but he's growing on me. And here's another thing. Here's what's not growing on me. They have Pierce book Braun Strongman and Bronson Reed next week in the last monster standing match. And then you hear people fighting and grunting And they run over with the camera and there's Butch beating up Sheamus with a cricket bat. What did I just say?
See?
Again, everybody's beating up everybody in the back to the point where when it is supposed to mean something, why does it mean anything? It's like, oh, there's the popcorn guys. One's got his fucking axe handle shoved up another guy's ass.
Here's a question. Do you think they're going somewhere with this? The idea that Nick Aldis has a nice and tidy SmackDown, and on Raw, there's just brawls breaking out all over the place and Pierce has no control.
Well, he might not have a nice and tidy SmackDown. We need somebody to do an analysis. Is it more dangerous to be in the locker room in Raw or on SmackDown?
Definitely Raw.
Well, there's 3 hours, though. How many locker room fights per hour is the average? That's a more fair way to look at it.
And we can only be looking at it from the period of time they were both general managers.
Yes. Because otherwise it wouldn't be fair, because the other general managers weren't as strict, possibly, as these people. And then they had a girls' tag team match. And then they played the tape of Cody and Roman filming their heist movie in Atlanta. And then they had the tag team match between the New Day and the Creeds. I will just say this. Have you seen now what I'm talking about with the Creeds? That they may be excellent athletes. They may be wonderful, competitive amateur wrestlers. They may be dedicated young men who both use their left and right turn indicator and say yes, sir, and no, sir, to the coaches. But I cannot see any way in the world that they have been lifelong or even moderately long time wrestling fans, because of the fact that if they're that great athletes, they don't know how this shit is supposed to look. And it's awkward, and sometimes these things just don't work. We won't give up on them just yet. But between those nerdy, hatchet-headed fucking blank faces they've got, and the fact that everything they do in a pro wrestling ring looks awkward in terms of how a pro wrestler would do it, what are you seeing? Are you seeing anything? Everybody else, oh, the Creeds are great.
I haven't been terribly impressed. At least they have nice outfits now. Very patriotic, red, white, and blue. Ivy Nile interests me because you can't look at her and figure out her age.
What?
You look at her, you're like, she could be 40. She could be 30. She could be 35. You can't figure it out.
Well, just Google it.
I don't want to. I like the mystery. That's the point.
No, right now, she's not 40. I bet you she's not 30.
Really? Hold
I
on.
bet you she's 26 years old.
32.
What?
32 from Knoxville.
Well, you can't believe anything on Google, can you?
Well, maybe not.
All right, anyway, the main event time had come for Raw, as it does for us all. And I didn't think I was going to like this match, but I didn't think it was going to depress me at the end. They'd been milking it all night. Jey Uso versus Bron Breakker for the Intercontinental title. And they did the Jey Uso entrance through the arena. Okay, I've got a lot of least favorites in AEW, but I'm now officially declaring Jey Uso is my least favorite top guy gimmick in wrestling. It's all over, but I hate it. I hate Yeet. I hate that fucking Ringling Brothers outfit he's wearing with Yeet on his arms and flower petals on his legs and fluorescent blue all over. I hate his work, which has gone to hell because of his hot doggery, which is not only over the top, but also it seems to me to be hard to work with because of the timing of his hot doggery is just a step behind the beat, or maybe a musician would know better, a step off, whatever. I don't like any of this. Am I over-exaggerating any of these cases?
Well, you're consistent. You have been pretty open about your not liking any of the Jey Uso stuff for quite a while. And obviously, if there was any match that was going to trigger you, it would be this match. Notwithstanding, I mean, it was a good match. I could see why the finish would trigger you.
Well, but I'm talking about, am I overstating the case on Jey Uso? Yes, I'm admitting he's over. The people like it. They like the entrance. They like the yeet. The blah, blah, blah. But his work, blah. His look, blah. The outfit, blah. And then I'm watching this. It looked to me like Bron Breakker was the veteran heel trying to lead a green babyface through the heat. The way that Braun sells makes Jay's kind of weak shit look better. And when Braun was in control with the heat and methodically picking him apart, it was slow, but then they'd have a burst. But he's got a great heel attitude and heel aggression. And he's got the athletic moves that he does. And, Uso is not selling like Ricky Morton. He's selling, but he's not setting, a standard of like, wow, look how good that fucking guy is for his short time in the business. They've been doing this 15 years now, right? So Braun he's a better looking athlete. He's a better worker. He's got the better personality. And yes, I know one's a heel, one's a babyface. I'm saying in terms of anything I'm looking for in a money-drawing athlete in the wrestling business, Braun has more of it than Uso, except Uso's been put in the bloodline spot, which is what propelled him to be over on his own. And when Uso makes a comeback, it's with rotten punches that the big stud like Braun has to sell, and that bogus yeet shit where you got to stand there interminably while he does his dipsy doodling and hits you again. And boy, now all the guys today know how it felt when they had to stand there for Dusty's flip-flop and fly. But I mean, that was the thing. Uso barely hit a Samoan drop at one point where he didn't really have control of Braun, and they just went down. And then Braun outshined him with the Breakensteiner off the top. And then they traded big 2 counts. The people were into it. But finally, Braun had speared him on the floor at one point. He went to do it again and ran into a super kick, and then Uso speared him through the barricade and then threw him in the ring and speared him there and then splashed him off the top 1, 2, 3. So now Jey Uso's the new Intercontinental title or champion. And Bron Breakker only had it like 2 months. And yes, I know he's got a long way to go, and I'm sure they're prepared for this moment with what to do with him next, but everybody popped and loved the finish. I did not share the enthusiasm.
Big pop, massive pop.
Huge pop. Jey Uso is possibly the biggest tribute to modern WWE booking that even he is that over. Because if he hadn't been in this bloodline thing, just the work or the look or the promos, it's like fucking R-Truth kind of underneath comedy filler in the back pre-tape shit.
Well, there's always a guy, and they come in different forms, that get over with the people, and it doesn't match the work. From the Ultimate Warrior to maybe to some of us who were first exposed to Jimmy Valiant when he was the Boogie Woogie Man, not early Boogie Woogie Man, but late Boogie Woogie Man. There are certain guys, you can't explain it. They have a connection. Obviously, he's peaking right now with it.
I wish I didn't have to peak.
The idea of beating Bron Breakker right now was one of the big surprising things, I guess.
That was, I don't know why that they needed to beat Braun at that point. And I wish that they would have given Jey another big win and just don't beat fucking Braun. And also, I'm not looking forward to. Think about this. The Intercontinental title's now gone from Gunther, Ended up with Bron Breakker. At least you could count on wow matches with Gunther and a wow performance with really good matches from Braun. Now you get the Intercontinental title as Jey Uso.
And Sami had it too.
Well, but I'm, Sami, yes, he was a great worker also, but I'm talking about new young guys. You got Gunther can really go. You got Braun that can really go. You got Jey Uso. We're not going to be looking forward to those matches.
Well, we'll see how many of those matches there are. Not they are.
Well, hello,
I get my
Dave.
phone is going off. These goddamn politicians keep spamming me.
These goddamn politicians. How'd they get your number?
I don't know.
Did you go around passing around your business card again, telling them they ought to advertise on the Arcadian Vanguard Network?
Why don't we move on? We could just move on with the show now. What was next on SmackDown?
Well, that wasn't SmackDown. That was Raw, and that was it. That was all she wrote, as Mama Cornette used to say. That was the end of the show.
Do you think with Jey Uso, there's a touch of that? He deserves it because he's been here a very long time and never held a singles title, so we got to do this?
Boy, if it was an OVW and I'd say, yeah, that guy's been a really good student and maybe we ought to reward him or whatever. But no, at this level, at this fucking level of money and television and viewership and fuck him and what he deserves.
Jeez, you really do hate him, though.
Well, no, for anybody. I wouldn't put it at that level. I wouldn't put a belt on anybody just because they've been around and they haven't had it. They deserve it. They've been good guys. No, fuck that. Jesus Christ. No, you don't do that. At the local cable access level, that's a wonderful thing to do. But not at that level.
Well, that level was WWE Raw.